further on in the meeting. Alan will be joining us as the CEO of Watts on the 2nd of June, but he's been already keeping in close touch and updating himself with what's going on. And so we look forward very much to you being there, as I'm sure both the acting CEOs do as well. Brilliant job though they've done. I'm sure they will be glad to have you assume the reins and let them actually get back to doing one job instead of two, especially as the second job they've taken on in the last few months has been somewhat larger than they might have initially envisaged.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you. Thank you very much, Pam, for the kind introduction.
But yes, thank you both to Marie and Matt. You've done a really fabulous job in this time, and we really appreciate.
Yeah, thank you, Pam.
Got us through and over all of this, and we'll look forward to your reports in a few moments. Okay, first of all, we do have everybody. We don't have any apologies. Even although not all of us are quite as upright as they might wish to be. And we'll move to looking at the minutes. So the minutes of the public meeting have been circulated, including an answer to the one question we had in the public forum last time. So before I ask somebody to move the minutes, are there any corrections, comments, or other remarks? Janet may have found grammatical errors that need correcting.
No.
Not this time. They must have proofread them very carefully because they knew you'd be looking at them. No. Okay. Well, I'll move from the chair that the minutes be received and passed. Do I seconded by Amy? All those in favour? Little waves, please. Seeing we don't have any green buttons. Those against, carried. Okay, so we now move on to any matters arising. No matters arising. Okay, moving on now to the interest register. I will just see if there's anybody who wants to comment on the interest register, particularly in light of the public or the open part of the meeting that Waitakere had last month. I'll see if anybody has any comments that they want to make in terms of what the contents of the interest register
should we?
Entirely up to you. I'm just throwing it open to the meeting if there's anything that anybody would like to say.
Is that in respect to political affiliation?
What? Sorry, Kurt. Yes. Well, that was the main change to the interest register that Waitakere made, and I know that there were a variety of views about this. So I was providing the opportunity for people to air those, should they wish to do so, not requiring anybody to make any comment if they don't want to.
We haven't initiated that, have we?
Haven't initiated what, Ben?
Did you say something to do with political affiliation being listed?
Waitakere did that in their open meeting last month. As any of you who went online to have a look at the open meeting show from PLT and WLT will have noticed. So I just wondered if there was any comment about that, or if anybody felt they ought to be emulating their fine example, or had anything else to say on the matter. No? Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, people know what political party I'm affiliated with, but yeah, whether or not that needs to be registered in interest. I mean, would that just extend solely to the trustees, or would that be something that everybody does?
By everybody, do you mean the Watts board directors as well?
Indeed.
Any other comments from anybody else? No. Well, as some of you may be aware, Maggie, yes, go ahead. Maggie, you seem to have
watch the video. Can you hear me?
Yes, it can.
I did watch the video. I think it was a bit of a non-issue, really. And, you know, the interest register is, for me anyway, about interests that people hold in other organisations that actually may have some influence on the business that we're doing, and conflicts for individuals. I think people belong to groups that they feel they don't necessarily need to put on the interest register. I don't think there's any point in pressuring people to do that.
Thanks, Maggie. Any other comments? Okay, well, as many of you will be aware, my own view is that if we stand on a particular political ticket or to represent a particular group as a candidate, that is a pretty public disclosure of the position that we would be coming from and endorsed by the voters if they elect us. So whether that needs any further comment or disclosure, I think is down to what we consider to be an interested transaction and something which needs to be disclosed in the interest register. And yes, I've just been marking the assignments about interested transactions from my darling students, so that I am recalling that interested transactions are ones in which the director, or in this case the elected member, would be on the other side of a transaction from the organisation or the company, in the case of the Companies Act, or interested in some other way through being a member of an organisation which would be on the other side of a transaction, or having a close family member. So I think perhaps if we look at organisations which might be on the other side of transactions or grants or interactions with PLT or with the trusts at large, then that's probably a guide to us in terms of whether or not we should be disclosing this in the interest register. So if there's no further comment, I'll move on then to correspondence. We have no correspondence. And then in our matters for information is the lovely submission to the Justice Committee put together for us by Margie and Ben, and sent in over my name purely because I'm the president and because the submission reflected the views which we all discussed and wanted to put together at a meeting. So that's just there on the agenda as a matter for information.
Can I just
now,
add,
yeah, Maggie.
Chair?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that Kurt was also involved in that working party.
I'm sorry, Kurt. I wouldn't wish to deny your role or contribution there. My apologies. Now, moving on to the monthly report. I don't know, Matt, if you and Marie want to tag team on this, but I'm presuming that members will have done their homework and read it. So perhaps if you want to highlight specific things that you'd like to point out for us. Oh, we lost Matt. Yes, we seem to have lost Matt. Marie, are you still there? No, we don't seem to have either of the CEOs at present.
Yes, I am. I was muted and I was furiously trying to unmute myself.
Right, we seem to have lost Matt.
Do we? Yeah, we have. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for him and drop him in when he reappears.
Right, as long as you're not dropping him into it, that's fine.
No, totally. I won't drop him right into it. I think that, I mean, probably when we look at the CEO report, monthly update report itself, let's talk about the fact that we've now moved from level 4 to level 3 to level 2, and as far from an operating sort of modus operandi is that we're getting back to as normal. Oh, hold on. Oh, that's an interesting one. No. I'm going to remove that person. Sorry, there was an interesting person. It's just just watching the waiting room now. We've gone from quite quickly from a very unusual operating model to something that's getting a lot more normal. One of the interesting, really important parts of it is that a lot of the teams are getting back to their usual sites. So although hospitality has only been in the last week or two, certainly the venues have got a number of their staff back where they can and getting them rostered on where they can, although obviously minimising costs where possible. Retail stores have got back to their normal teams where in the first sort of 6 weeks we were pretty much getting people rostered across wherever we possibly could, and that in particular been able to have licensed people in each of the places that we needed to have for the time that we needed them. So things are getting a lot more normal for our teams, and also back to we're not quite there, but we're probably operating about near the end of May. I had a look today for this last week. Oh, Matt's saying please let me in, but he's not there waiting. Okay. So we're probably still sitting at a 70-75% of revenue at this point, and maybe hope to get, this is for retail, and hope to get back to maybe sort of 75 to 80% by the end of the month at level 2. Hospo is obviously doing it very hard. It's very easy, early days, but given that we've only been able to open for a week, with some of our bars only able to open since Thursday, so it's a little bit early to really comment, except that it's been very positive, the sort of loyalty and following that we've had, and that's been with the teams in particular pushing their own venues on social media. There's been some good uptake of offers, but I had to mention through all this, we had to mention through this that the teams are working really, really hard to put in what's quite difficult restrictions on operating into place, the seated and the serving, and which is a little bit difficult in a bar situation. So trading, you'll see from the obviously the financials we'll talk about in a little while. Really, it was a whirlwind, or I think Matt's kind of called it a sort of a tornado of April, where we battened down the hatches and just had to see what happened. We did the best that we could with those hatches to make it work. That we're coming out the other end a wee bit now. We had a huge amount of quite a large amount of extra cost, which you'll see as well. And we've been able to reduce that as the situation progressed and came right. And I'll come back to your question in a moment, Catherine. Yes, I'll answer it now because I might just go back onto the next item very shortly. Tap House, we're looking into that. We had a question around it, Tap House, before we went into COVID, and particularly right now, we don't feel that the Tap House enjoys a number of events which are really restricted under level 2, where people need to be seated. So for instance, there's a lot of pool competitions and things like that where so pool competitions just can't happen in this restriction. So we're monitoring the situation as we go, and I haven't been able to catch up with the news today as to how those restrictions may be eased, if at all, but it looks like probably in a couple of weeks' time we may see a different there. So Catherine, I see your question about Avondale Tap House. That'll be a little while yet, I believe. Just working on the people capability and learning update is number 2 there, and Pam, you introduced Ellen, who's on this call today, which is excellent, and Ellen has had a bit of a baptism by fire. We've kind of said that he needs, there's a lot going on, and we're really looking forward to him being in the office next Tuesday. And given that there has been a lot going on, Alan has actually very kindly been giving us his time to many meetings online, including the Watts board meeting today and of course tonight's meeting. I think Alan has probably actually had a good portion of his induction happening already, which is great, because I know there's numerous issues that he will need to get his head around as soon as he hits the ground on Tuesday. But outside of that, we're starting to roll out again the training practices in all our teams. One of the items raised today was around the health and safety of our teams at the moment. Reporting the meetings, health and safety meetings have not happened over the last 2 months. However, health and safety, as everybody knows, has been paramount to all of us to make sure that everyone is just checking to see if Matt's there waiting to come in. No. To make sure that everybody is safe from COVID in particular. But interesting enough, the situation has probably put us in a better safety position in respect of security. We don't have cash on site. We have no cash on site whatsoever. It's very clear to customers. There have been, through the difficult period, we have security guards on. There are a lot of people on site, and so it's probably almost been the safest time for our liquor stores on their own. But otherwise, the focus has actually been on team member health around the COVID-19, but also their mental wellness as well, which you've seen that we've been doing a number of things, including keeping our managers up to date on that, on things to do around that. I will just carry on. Hold on.
No, it's all on you, Marie. But you can just very briefly summarise if you like, because
sure. Matt,
we hope they have done their homework.
You've been removed by the host. Oh, I'm sorry. So I didn't. Okay, I'll just carry on going through the update, and I'll come back to you. Okay. Right. Okay. I didn't do that on purpose.
Multitasking on several fronts there, Marie.
No, I was just he unfortunately got a message saying he got removed by me, which I wouldn't actually do in public. But anyway, okay. So what else have we got in here? I'll probably talk. I'd like to just mention about the online store actually. So we've talked a bit about retail, talked about health and safety protocols, but the online, I'd like to say, although it's been quite quiet, has actually run very successfully over the period. So we will be continuing this for a bit to see, how can we actually make this work for our community, because I think there's a lot that we can do in that space, and I've been on deliveries myself, and it's been great. The community, the people that we've delivered to have been fantastic. They've really enjoyed it. They've loved to see us out there and about. So we certainly want to see how we can make that work even better for the West Auckland community. So you just wanted to mention about that one. Hospitality is just getting back into it, as I mentioned. And yes, I guess the big update around the funds that were have been allocated to support the two key organisations that support food security, which were Fair Food and Vision West. So that's really exciting to be part of that, and because the need is huge out there. And talking to those that are involved in it, it's quite humbling to hear that and what they're able to do for that part of the community. I'm not sure I need to talk about the economy, because I think we all know what that looks like, and particularly if there's anything that has to be said out of that part of the report, it is we actually don't know what that's going to look like. We know what it kind of looks like right now, but things like the wage subsidy, other support, has potentially delayed the true fallout from this, and we also don't know what impact it will have across the board. There are obvious ones that will occur, but how deep and how long and when they will actually present themselves will be what we'll have to keep in our minds as a watching brief, and that will certainly not be in the short term. It will be in the short to medium term. So it's just a cautious eye when we look forward into the future in regards to how we support the community, and also how we forecast our business going forward. So if I'll leave that at that. And if Matt comes on, he's got anything else he'd like to add, despite the fact that I'm obviously trying to stop him get on.
Thanks very much, Marie. There's a couple of questions already from Catherine and from Leanne. Any other questions that anybody wants to raise? No? Did you want to respond to Leanne, then Marie? Oh, yes, Maggie's got one as well. Leanne's put something in the chat there.
Sorry, Leanne. At this point, no, there is actually no requirement on us at level 2 to participate in government tracing, although we are looking into the QR scan details at the moment that are coming out. So we'd like to participate in that, but at this point there's no requirement, but we're absolutely looking into how we can make that easy.
Right, thanks. Maggie.
Thank you, Marie. Could you advise me how you find out where the access to the food banks is? Because I tried to have a little bit of a look to see if I could find out. I've had people in the community asking me, and the recommendation that went through was to want to make sure we're getting coverage right across the Portage area. I've had people at school asking me, and they're happy to put it
Maggie,
in the
just a
newsletters.
sec. Can I just interrupt you for a minute? Please, could all of us mute if we're not talking, because we're getting some feedback here. So if we just all.
So what you're saying, Maggie, is people are finding it difficult to access the very groups that we're supporting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can't find the information. I've gone on social media. I can't find where you can access Fair Foods food banks, and I can't get that information out to people who are asking me.
Sure.
And I guess I'm looking more at the eastern end and of the Portage area.
Sure.
So we can get that out. I think the real west is well served. It's how we get into Blockhouse Bay and New Windsor and Avondale and places. And I was assured it was in Avondale, but I can't find where.
Okay. I can't say myself,
That'd
but
be really
can I?
helpful.
Yeah, can I just take that away to those organisations? Because, you know, I'm sure they want to make sure that they're extending their services to, you know, across the board. And I think, as we've talked before, both of those organisations, I know Fair Food provide a link within the food security cycle, but I'm sure that the food banks that we're supporting actually have a very wide reach. But let me put that to them. That's a very good question, because I think that's one of the things that I'm hearing is that there may be areas of support out there, but people are sometimes struggling to find out how to access those. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I know there are some standing ones, like, you know, if you've got a new Lynn, Friday lunchtime there's a queue. It opens up at 1 o'clock and all the food parcels go out. I haven't been able to find that elsewhere, or an 0800 number. And the second question I had was, there was a comment in your report about the booklet that's been printed for the West Auckland area through the community hub group, and I'm wondering where that's going to be distributed through and what channels, so we know it's getting out there. Do you know where they're planning to distribute it? Thank you.
Okay, I don't know that offhand. I can find out while we're on this meeting and let you know. How's that?
Great, thanks very much indeed, Marie. Just my own.
Can I just say though, Maggie, what you're just saying there about the distribution booklet, when I was speaking to a man about that, that is absolutely in response to the fact that people are finding it difficult to access or access the needs that they have. So yes, let's find out whether it's distributed, but that is one of the things that they're trying to do to help that. Just saying.
Okay, thanks, Marie. My own tuppence worth on Fair Food, I thought they were the people who salvaged and distributed the food to the food banks. I didn't think they actually ran food banks themselves, Maggie, but
correct.
they actually the providers of the food to the food banks.
Yeah,
was my understanding from our discussions.
Yeah.
Okay,
that link between the producers, the supermarkets, surplus foods through to where it's going out.
Through to the food banks. So we're actually the Fair Foods contribution to Fair Foods is providing the food that goes into a lot of the food banks that are available in the eastern part of the Portage part of the Truss area. Now let's move on to the next item, which I think is public questions, and then we'll just look at meeting dates. We have 3 questions in our public forum tonight, so I'll just run through those quickly. The first one is from Luke Saunders, and the question reads, why do you restrict West Aucklanders by making it tough for bars and restaurants and overcharging us for beer and wine when paying huge salaries to your boys club? So that's the first question. I suppose there will be written responses to all these questions. You saw in the minutes of the open session that there was a written response to the question in the open forum last time. So I suppose all I would say to this is, Luke, I think you've been misinformed, that quite a bit of your information here perhaps isn't correct. We don't make it tough for restaurants. We're delighted to see restaurants opening over West Auckland. Overall, certainly we don't overcharge for our beer and wine, and overall you'll find our prices are comparable. I'm sure perhaps that we can furnish you with some more detailed information about that. I don't think we pay huge salaries. We pay salaries in line with the market. And in respect of Boys Club, well, we have a very supportive policy in terms of diversity in the trusts. We support our staff to advance through the trusts. We have 2 female presidents of the trusts currently. We have a CFO who's been acting as a CEO who is female. We've got a female marketing manager. So I think perhaps it's not entirely a boys' club, and certainly I think perhaps you'll find that your view of the salaries paid are that they're not as huge as you may imagine. I don't know if we need to add anything more to that.
Pam?
Yes, Ben, yeah.
I think on one aspect of that, I think it's probably worth exploring is pricing. Certainly a lot of feedback I get from people is that trust pricing tends to be higher than you might find in other outlets around Auckland. Even if it's, 5 or 10% more, it's obviously got quite an impact on people that are relying on us for their alcohol. But it might be interesting, whether there should be a study done on price comparison by Watts, and what could be done to close the gaps on that.
Thanks for that, Ben. Yes, I think you'll find such a study has been done, and I hope that those figures will inform the written answer to this question. Of course, we do not have the buying power of the supermarket, so on any specific item we may easily be outbid if they're wanting to offer it at a lower price. But I think there's this mythology somehow that the trusts are more expensive, and I think that the survey data has established that that's not necessarily the case. However, I don't have the data with me, so I won't take it any further than that at present. But the written answer, I hope, will provide that data. Yeah, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if that exists, it would be interesting to see it published. I haven't seen that before, because certainly all the anecdotal feedback I have from people is we're more expensive.
Yeah, I think there is that mythology about, but whether it's actually supported by any statistical support or evidentiary backup, I'm not sure. But I'm going to leave that to the written response, because I don't have those figures available at present. Now, Nick, we've got a question from Nick's mail. The trust sold 211 Richardson Road, Richardson's Tavern, in 2017-18 for an undisclosed amount. Council valuation is 10.5 million. According to your financial statements, deposits of 2.05 million have been received already, with the remainder presumably to be paid on settlement, which is due in September 2020. Does the trust currently expect settlement in September 2020 as planned? If so, does the trust intend to use the monies received to deliver support to the community in the immediate future, i.e. to deliver the 5 million of giving back previously announced? Or does it have other plans, e.g. to reinvest these funds to generate future income? Well, I'll just tip in my tuppence worth here and see if there's anything else that anybody else would like to say. From the Watts Board meeting today, yes, I think that we are expecting settlement in September 2020, but in this uncertain economic time, nobody can count on anything in particular. So my personal view would be it would be very unwise to count any chickens before they're hatched, and to be planning to spend the proceeds of Richardson's before we've actually seen that settlement happens. Probably not prudent. Any further elaboration on that from the PLT Watts Board members or our acting CEO? No? Okay, a third question is Graham Farrelly. What future business case options is the Portage Licensing Trust evaluating? Has it done any planning for a time when the licensing monopoly may be removed? Has it considered the possibility that it may be able to generate more profit and thereby give more back to the community if it reduced the number possibly to zero of hospitality retail businesses it owns. The monopoly cannot last forever. I think it's incumbent on the trustees to look ahead and plan accordingly. Well, again, thank you for your views, Graham. The statutory requirement of a licensing trust is actually not, the mandatory requirement is not that it gives back, but that it runs these businesses on a monopoly basis. We're all delighted to give back. And I think maybe there may be a range of views on how long or if the monopoly will last, but in the meantime, we look to our management team to plan prudently for the future, and many of us are on the licensing trust board because we see the social value to our community, not only in the giving back program, but more especially in the controlled sale of alcohol for a variety of socially good reasons, including health, and would work actively to make sure that that situation continues. Anybody else who'd like to comment? Okay, fine. Well then, in that case, I see a couple of thumbs up. That's very kind, thank you. We now get to the announcement of meeting dates, which are available on the Trust website. So in terms of the open part of the meeting, please look to the information on the Trust website for information about future Portage meetings and other Trust meetings for that matter. And I will now move to the point of asking a mover to take us into the closed part of the meeting. Do I have somebody to move that?
Sorry, is there any other business?
Pardon?
Is there any other business?
Any other business? Sorry, I should have been asking for general business. My apologies, Ben. Is there any general business for the open part of the meeting? You clearly must have an item if you've raised it. Thank you. Go ahead.
It's been brought to my attention that the Blockhouse Bay bottle store has applied for a licence, but what's called undesignated, which means that minors are allowed to go into the store. And I was interested in why Watts had applied for an undesignated licence for that. Why do we want minors able to go into an off licence?
I have no idea, but I'll ask if there's somebody else who can help you with this.
So actually, I'm just looking at Kurt's picture there, who's sitting there with his child, which is very, very pertinent to this, which is not about attracting minors into our store, but it's about allowing minors to come in with their parents, their guardians, rather than leaving them in their cars, which is not acceptable. So it is not about allowing minors to come into our store to shop. It's about allowing minors to come accompanied by their guardian so that they are safe while their parents are shopping. So yeah, it's all of our license have the same designation.
So undesignated is defined as a minor can come in with a parent or unaccompanied. It's not a different one where they can come in with a parent but not on their own, or does it all have to fall into that?
I probably couldn't answer that, all those specific technicalities. We could get obviously either our retail manager, a GM of retail, or legal advice on that. But Alan looks like he's got an answer on that one.
Yeah, and it's very standard practice these days for off licenses to have undesignated for that very reason. 10, 15 years ago, they used to have what's called a supervised license, where you can come in with a minor. But these days, typically, with off license and retail in general, all licenses are undesignated.
Okay, thank you for that, Ben. Any other general business before I make the fox's paw of moving on before we've completed the item? No, okay. Could I have somebody to move the motion that takes us into the closed session? Thank you, Lee. And do we have a seconder?
It was Kurt moved it.
Sorry, what was that, Amy?
See, Kurt moved it earlier on.
Kurt moved it?
Yes.
Oh.
You just need a seconder.
Well, Leanne has just moved it and Kurt, I think, has seconded it. So
Okay.
moved Leanne, seconded Kurt. Thank you very much. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please wave or say aye. Against?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, we now move into the closed part of the meeting. And so we'll ask Marie